we'll have time to all go outside and to stand. So we'll learn today Le'iloi Nishmoteim and keeping them all in mind. And I think we've always done that. Eliza reminded me. I wasn't sure what we do on Yom HaZikaron, but Eliza said whenever it's been a Tuesday, we've learned and we've always stopped during the siren. And then hopefully you'll be able to join whatever Tkasim and videos you want to watch later. And then we will whoop it up as much as we can tonight and tomorrow. And God willing, we will be back to full festivity mode next year at 73. 72 will be weird. I saw a poster already. They have a poster every year, right, for the Yom Ha'atzmaut that they keep, and they have it. So the poster this year is that cute one of different people on their mirpasot with masks on. It's very sweet, and it's going to be forever remembered as the Yom Ha'atzmaut, during Corona. So, okay. So what I wanted to do today is play off of, this is working out perfectly. God is with us. We're going to play off of this week's Parsha. And when I say Parsha, I really mean Parshiot. Because if you looked ahead, you saw that not only did we learn Tazria Mitzorah, but we're going to learn Achrei Mot Kedoshim. And then we're going to read Bahar B'chuchotai. So out of 4 weeks, 3 of them are double Parshiot. Okay? So this week is Achrei Mot Kedoshim, and we're going to actually touch on each one as I go back to something I was starting to develop last week by chance. Again, there's no chance, but I was trying to show you an example of a mitzvah in the Sefer HaChinuch. And the one I came up with last week that just was a nice one to show you was the idea that when someone is tameh, they can't enter the mikdash. And I showed you how the Sefer HaChinuch, again, we're not sure what his name was. We just call him the author of the Sefer HaChinuch. Some suggest somebody by the name of Rav Aaron Alevi. He definitely lived after the Ramban. So definitely 1500s maybe, because he's quoting the Ramban and of course the Rambam before that. But the Baal, the author of the Sefer HaChinuch, what he wrote is that we're trying to create a certain aura around the mikdash. And part of how we do that is say, if you're tameh, you can't come in, which makes it special, right? It's like, it's obviously putting some sort of ribbon or, fence before it and saying, only you, let me check your ID, let me see, are you tameh, are you tahor? So I want to show you a continuation of that and then actually talk more about the mikdash, talk more about what it means to sanctify a space and why we do that. And obviously it's very relevant to us today since we are missing our shuls. This is a shout out and a tribute to all of our shuls. We're all in a little bit of exile lately, and it's very painful and sad, especially on a night like tonight, to think of how all these shuls are empty when all we want to do is thank God for this miracle of the state of Israel. And I feel like he's not letting us in. You start to wonder, like, what's wrong? You don't want us anymore? Is this a message? So we'll talk about shuls and Beit Knesset, Beit Hamikdash, Kedushat Makom here today in some of these sources. Okay, so I'm starting in this week's parsha, the first one, Achrei Mot. Let's just enter. Someone is here. Sorry, Aliza. Someone's in the waiting room. I can also admit her. I don't know if Aliza's still here. Okay. That we have a waiting room, I think, so we don't have strangers entering. But okay, so in Achrei Mot, the first source, and I'll go, if some of you had a chance to print, that's great. If not, I will go share the screen with you here. Okay, thumbs up, you see the screen, right? I always get nervous. Okay, so here we go. First source for this week's Parsha is mitzvah number. I always notice what mitzvah we're up to. Kuf Pei Daled, 184. I said to you at the end of Shmot here, in the middle of Vayikra, we're not yet picking up the number so much. We're about to in Parshat Kedoshim, which has so many mitzvot. But at this point in the game, out of 613, if you're going from Bereshit, where the whole Sefer only had 3, and then including Shmot, we're actually only up to 184, and we have another, many to go before we get to 613 at the end of Dvarim. Okay, so mitzvah number 184 in this week's parsha is Shelo yikansu hakohanim b'chol eit el hamikdash ela be'eit ha'avodah. See, here we go again. Not everybody can enter the Beit HaMikdash to work, to visit. Last week we talked about Tumah. Now we're talking about even the Kohanim. Sorry, you don't get to just come and go. Ela be'eta avodah, only when you're doing avodah, which means that even for the Kohanim, we're trying to create for them a certain sense of an aura, around this Beit HaMikdash. Why do you think I would say actually for the Kohanim it's more important to create that aura, to create that about the Beit HaMikdash? Why do you see that it's like maybe even more important for the Kohanim to have that?
So they'll be more attentive in their avoda, and they won't just view it as blasé yom yom. It's a special occurrence. They go in.
Okay, good. So you went to the positive. You went to like, okay, I want them to dafka be aware of it. Okay, good.
I will always go to the positive. Why would you think otherwise?
I don't know why I wouldn't. We're the same like that. Here, I'm thinking like an administrator, and I'm nervous about the Kohanim dafka. Why do I think dafka there?
Because power begets more power, and maybe they would think that they can do whatever they want.
Okay, so they have a certain power, and it might get to their head, and I need them to remember the day. Yep, and also, I'm also thinking also.
Also, I think things something you do all the time just tends to become so routine. Like that's the trouble we have with davening 3 times a day. That it's like, how do I infuse new excitement and life into it?
Okay, good. So I was also thinking that. I was thinking they're the ones who are going to be there all the time. Okay, then we have this other idea how they're the ones who might get a little bit arrogant about themselves. That's why like Birkat Kohanim is so important, that they use their power for Bnei Israel. You're there to bless the Am. And then what Tanya is saying is also, of course, so true, which is I need to really take care of them and make sure that they have the right mindset because of the avodah they're doing. Okay, anyway.
Could there also be an element of not allowing it to become too familiar, like keeping the idea that Kedusha has to be separate?
Yes, and that's what you meant, right? The second idea, who just said that second idea of they're going to become too familiar with it? Who was just saying that? Right? The second idea that we said.
Yudit.
Okay, Yudit. That was Yudit's voice. Okay, I lost some of your faces, obviously, because we're sitting here with the source sheet. But yes, Yudit, that idea, I think that's what you're saying, Rachel, right? Like the idea of it just, you're going to become too familiar with it. Okay, so that's our mitzvah here. Okay, we're starting with that mitzvah. Shelo yikansu kohanim b'chol eit el kodesh ela beita avoda. Shene'emar in our parsha, the mitzvah, the actual pasuk we're talking about is v'al yavo b'chol eit. Don't come at all times. Okay, just keep reading for a minute. V'yazhir b'kan kohen gadol v'hikanes b'veit kodesh hakodeshim. We're warning, right? We're warning here in this pasuk the Kohen Gadol, because Achrei Mot is about to go into Avodat Yom HaKippurim. And what we're saying is you, Mr. Kohen Gadol, you, right? You can't just go in whenever you want. Afilu b'Yom HaKippurim, you can't go in whenever you want. Ela b'zman ha'avodah. There are going to be a few moments that day when you're going to walk into the Kodesh Kodashim, do what we need you to do for the Am, for Kapara, and leave. And of course, we also mean in this warning, in this lo ta'aseh, the regular Kohen, the Kohen Hediot, mehi kanes behechal kol hashana, ela b'zman ha'avodah. Imagine a Kohen is not in his 2 weeks of work. Kohanim only did a shift. Imagine a Kohen is not in his 2 weeks of work, but he comes to Yerushalayim to visit with his kids on a tiyul, and his kids say, Abba, can you show us where you work when you're away? And he takes them to the Beit HaMikdash and starts to go in and sort of like walk around. So someone there would say to him, no, you're not on this week. You can't go into the Beit HaMikdash. Oh, I just wanted to show my kids, my office, no. Imagine what that feels like to be told it's not yours. This is not like where you work that you get to come and go. Only when you're on serving Hashem. Like it's very powerful when you think about how it would be applied. Okay?
It makes you think of the Nadav Avihu.
Totally. Cross the line. Exactly.
It's true you have an important job to do, but it's only important if you do it when you're supposed to.
Good. And it's also, doesn't your heart go out to Nadav and Avihu? Like they just meant, it was just a hug. It's like now, right. Getting a fine because you hugged somebody. Like
it comes from the excitement of having that privilege.
Okay. And this is why, Tanya, I see you wait. And this is why Ahava always needs to be tempered by Yira. Because if not, boundaries are crossed inappropriately, even out of every good intention. It's like my students, I always think, because the head of our school started by having people call her by her first name, Vicky Berglass. So the rest of us in her footsteps, whenever, I'm not going to make them call me Mrs. Krohn when they're calling Vicky Berglass Vicky. She's like 75. It feels weird, But when they call me Bracha, they sometimes mess up and go over the line. And, you have to sort of remind them, even though there's this lack of distance between us, remember, there needs to be a little yira. So here also, Kohanim need it as much as the rest of us do. Okay, Tanya, what were you going to say? I saw your little raise hand icon.
I couldn't help but think right away of Hanukkah, and I'm thinking of the disgrace of what the Beit HaMikdash must have been like at the time of the Maccabees and everything at that time, where the Kohanim lost that ability to set it aside as a Mikdash, that this was a holy place, and the Romans destroyed it, and everybody could go anywhere at that point, and the Shekhinah basically left.
Yeah, and to see a Beit HaMikdash in ruins, when you've all along been playing by these rules and it's worked, you have this feeling about the Mikdash, like, ooh, the place that shall not be named. And then to see it, that's why it really breaks everyone's heart. That's why it's so painful to watch a fire in a shul, God forbid, Okay, last sentence. Okay, the explanation of this holding back, of this miniyah, to prevent them. Lomar, it's to teach. Shekol kohen lo yikanes b'makom shehu ra'oi ela bizman shehu ra'oi lehikanes bo. Like, there's a time and a place for you. Okay, when it's appropriate, it's appropriate. When not, dahainu. And when is that time? Dahainu means klomar, i.e., b'sha'at avodah. When it's the time of your service to God. When you are here serving God, that's when you may enter. Green light, otherwise red light. Now, he always in the Sefer HaChinuch does that shoresh hamitzvah. So let's go over the reasoning. How does he articulate this idea? Sheyikbe'u hamishartim b'nafshotam. Gidulat hamakomu ma'alato v'tihiyeh yir'ato tamid al pneihem. That they establish / internalize, they meaning the mishartim, those who serve the king, the Jews, the Kohanim here at the Beit HaMikdash, that they establish in their souls the greatness of this place and its high level. And then, as we'll talk about at the end, we'll get back to this, v'tihiyeh yir'ato tamid al pneihem, and then his fear will be on them. His, capital H, and then God's fear will be on them. We'll get back to the overall goal, which is obviously about Hashem, okay? Right now, we're carving out a space. There's a plan here, okay? Now, this idea of likboa banefesh is something that we were starting to talk about last week, and I want to keep showing it to you about this here, HaMikdash. So many times what the Sefer HaChinuch shows us is that there's a lot of mitzvot, and what's fun about learning the whole Sefer HaChinuch, if you could go through every Shoresh HaMitzvah like I once did one summer, you will see that he keeps coming back to the same themes for certain mitzvot over and over and over again, which means that he's grouping the mitzvot by theme. And there's a lot of mitzvot about which he says it's likboa ba'nefesh something. Here we're talking about Yirat HaMikdash. In other places we'll see it's about a certain midah. It's about Hakarat HaTov. Think about all these different mitzvot that you feel like they're kind of all about the same thing, So now we're talking about your Atam Mikdash, okay? So just mute, somebody unmuted by accident. I hear dishes, sorry. Okay, so now let me just show you another one that I thought of, okay? In Parsha, yeah.
I'm sorry, could I just ask you a really quick question? When he does Mishor Sheha Mitzvah, where is that from?
His own mind.
His what?
His own mind. This is him.
His own mind. Okay, yeah. I didn't understand. I thought he was bringing in.
No. Okay. Not at all. Sometimes he will say, as the Rambam writes, and then he'll either agree or disagree. Mm-hmm. He will quote. If he wants to quote something, he'll quote something. If he wants to quote someone, we'll see it. He'll say, Kemo Shama Rambam Be. He'll say it. Otherwise, it's his own sort of like, it's his own way of deconstructing, the mitzvot. And I think his humility drives him to say, Mishor Shei HaMitzvah. He often doesn't, sometimes he will say Shoresh HaMitzvah, but I really think often it's Mishor Shei, and maybe even if we looked, it would be that Where it's obvious, he writes shoresh, but where there's room to maybe say something else, he writes shorshe. I never noticed. But he definitely means to say, listen, I don't know for sure. And that's why last week when I was showing you guys the intro, it was important to hear his humility. He's like, listen, I don't know for sure, but I love thinking about mitzvot. I'm trying to get closer to God. I'm going to share with you what I've been thinking. And also I want to write this up, remember? So my son and his friends have something to do besides playing stickball in the street on Shabbos. And, this is what I'm thinking, but go ahead. You want to disagree? You want to come up with something else? Email me. You know what I mean? Like that's what he'd love to talk about it. Okay. So fine. So that's something. Now, let's go on to another one. This is one I thought of that I don't know if you remember this because it's not a mitzvah that we obviously deal with a lot, but it's such a great idea. Do you remember at the end of Parshat Yitro, after the 10 Commandments, there's like a few mitzvot, and one of them is this one, Mitzvah Mem Aleph, 41, early on. Shalom la'alot al hamizbeach b'madrigot. Remember that? When there was the mizbeach outside in the Azara, upon which we offered korbanot. What was there in order for the Kohen to get up to the Mizbeach, since it was very, very tall? Right? Lola alot al Mizbeach b'madrigot wasn't stairs.
There was a ramp.
It was a ramp, not a ladder and not stairs, a ramp. Likboa, right? Sorry, I jumped ahead. Kidei shelo ya'aseh psiot gasot ba'alato, so that he not take big, wide steps as he gets up there to the Mizbeach. Shene'emar, here's the pasuk at the end of Parshat Yitro, v'lo ta'aleh b'ma'alot al mizbechi asher lo tigale ervatcha alav, so that you not reveal your nakedness. Because when you walk, if you have like a slit or a wraparound, you have to think of it as a wraparound skirt. If you had a wraparound skirt, when you walk, it opens up. And we don't want that image of the Kohen going up. We don't want to see any nakedness at all. Even though, let's remember, Kohanim did have pants, which is interesting. They were wearing mechnasayim, right? Which is also part of the tzniut. But still, I'm just thinking as I'm reading the word ervatcha, it's not going to literally be his skin. But obviously, the erva is sometimes used, not literally as skin, but as something inappropriate. Okay? Like when they talk about, sometimes that word is used, I think like when you're talking about a woman's virginity and you find it might say like erva there. It doesn't mean her nakedness. It means something wrong. Something's wrong. Something that I shouldn't be, is there. So here also, okay, Ella, Shehu Ole Sham, Mehalech Benachat. First of all, Benachat, you walk very calmly, Ubiyira, frame of mind, come on, Akev Bitzad Godel, heel to toe. Akev Bitzad Godel. We would say heel to toe. The way we practice, our little kids practice walking down the aisle for a wedding. Dun, 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 like you go, heel to toe. It's like very small steps. Okay? Now that sounds like such a funny random mitzvah. But again, let's look at how the Sefer HaChinuch does the reason. Okay? I'm keeping my eye on the clock. Don't worry. Mishorshe mitzvah zo. Ma shekatavnu b'mitzvah hakodemet la. Guys, this is exactly what I was saying about the mitzvah before, which means mem, which we'll get to in a minute. I'll go there also with you. But here you see him repeating and repeating. This is what I already wrote in the mitzvah before, number 40. This is all in order to get into us the idea, to establish, to help us internalize a certain yira of the makom and its importance, the aura we're trying to create. V'al kain huz harnu. And therefore, we've been warned, we never want to act in a way that's frivolous. We never want to act in a way that's not totally dignified and respectful. He says, everyone knows. Rocks don't care about like bizayon, something that's disgraceful. What the rocks are going to see your underwear. The rock, what, nobody cares. The mizbeach, the rocks. We're not being silly. God knows that. It's not about that literally. The whole idea here is it's all about giving us an image, a picture. I'm trying to give you a sense. I got to work with you, your people, right? It's the same way the Beit HaMikdash is full of gold and expensive materials. What's that? Is God jappy? Why are we doing that? You would think that Jews of all people who don't value the physical would have just that little mishkan, that Ohel. But David HaMelech said, this makes me uncomfortable, that I'm living in a palace and you're living in a tent. I want to make you a palace. Not because God needs a palace, but because if I'm going to spend so much money on the shiputs in my kitchen, it doesn't feel right that I not give money to your name. So let me express that with a building. That's how we talk. We're people. That's how we talk. So this is all about latet siyur b'libeinu, b'yirat hamakom v'chashivuto ukvodo hagadol. Now here's the line he starts to use over and over again. Ki mitoch ha'pe'ula halev nif'al. Kimoshe katafti, as I've written. And we're going to see where he rates that in the mitzvah before, and then where he first wrote that back in mitzvah 16. I want to take you back to the first time he ever mentions it, which is mitzvah 16. Okay? The principle is mitoch ha'pe'ula halev nif'al. From the action we do, the heart will be affected. Nif'al. Again, we use the word nif'al as passive, but the word pa'al means like action. So nif'al means will be acted upon. Your heart will be acted upon. You will be affected. Ki mitoch ha'pe'ula halev nif'al. He's going to say that in a few different ways, okay? Before we have to break, let me just take you to the one he was talking about right before. Where else does he say, I've been mentioning this idea, that you have to develop a yirat hamakom, and these mitzvot are going to help you? Do you remember this one? The one before that, number 40. Shelo nivne mezbeach me'avanim, sheyiga behen barzel. You're not allowed to use stones for a mizbeach that were cut with iron. As the pasuk says specifically, lo tivne ten gazit. You cannot take instruments of war and use them to form stones, and then use those stones on the mizbeach. Why? Mishor sheya mitzvah shenikba benafshotenu miyom asoto shebesibato tavolanu mechilat avon v'habracha v'hashalom. It's because the whole idea of the mizbeach is to bring us shalom and atonement and peace and love from God and connection. So how can I then go ahead, v'al kain lizkor zeh davar, in order to remember that constantly? Nitztavinu, we're being commanded here, shelo lasot bo davar klal b'kelim hamuchanim lahashchata. You're not allowed to use, therefore, tools that are destructive weapons. V'zeh barzel shekoret, it cuts. Umuchan tamid l'shpoch dam, it's always ready to kill. Swords. Okay? I already told you at the beginning, and we're going to go look at that beginning, mitzvah 16, in a minute after the siren. We'll look at mitzvah 16. I already told you at the beginning, Ki adam nif'al kefi pe'ulotav u'machshavotav holchot le'olam achari ma'asav. A person is affected by his actions and his thoughts. If I can get somebody to think something, I can get them to actually do differently. They always go, right? Those thoughts will always go after the actions. So I know if a student in Stern told me she was going to the counseling center to get help with her lack of self-esteem. And of course, the woman in the counseling center was explaining to her the idea of affirmations. You stand in front of a mirror and you say, I am smart, I am capable, I am valuable. And you say that a few times a day, and gosh darn it, you're going to hold yourself in a different way. Or if you ever saw that video about before you go into an interview, stretch and do power pose, and like don't sit there shrinking up on a chair, all shuddering, and no, go like this, go to the bathroom and do this. It will make you feel strong. You'll walk in with your shoulders back. Like these little things work. They work because we're affected. That's just human nature. Okay, we are affected by what we do. So in order to make us think, Yirat HaMikdash, wow, oh Hashem, we're going to not use that. We're going to not do that. We're not going to have stairs. We're not going to cut the stones. We're not, okay? We're going to make this work. We're going to set ourselves up for success. Okay, now we'll go back to the original first time he mentions this concept after we all go out for the siren, and then we'll come back. Deal?